Good morning, all. Am I audible to all? Great. Good morning. So, friends, we are starting our reading club with the prayer.
भेद भाव अपने दिल से साफ कर सके, दोस्तों से भूल हो तो माफ कर सके, झूठ से बचे रहे, सच कदम भरे, दूसरों के जैसे पहले खुद को जय करे, हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मुश्किलें पड़े तो हम पर हित न कर्म कर, साथ दे तो धर्म का, चले तो धर्म पर, खुद पे हौसला रहे, बदी से ना डरे, दूसरों की जैसे पहले खुद को जय करे, हमको मन की शक्ति देना।
Good morning, all. We are giving tribute to our great master, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, for this wonderful divine science, homeopathy. Seeking blessings from our Guru, Dr. Prafull Vijayakar, sirs, who have bridged this modern science with the divine homeopathy and made homeopathy easy like mathematics. Jai Hanuman, Jai Homeopathy, Om Vijay Karaya. So we are in the journey of reading Organon's Wisdom by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, along with the understanding of genetic materia medica by Dr. Prafull Vijayakar. So in Organon of Medicines, the wisdom of master telling us about the understanding of the disease, then understanding of the medicines, and now the applications of the medicine to the disease part. It is the most practical part which Master Hahnemann wanted us to learn and apply into our clinical practice. So, from aphorism number 145, we have started the understanding of the applications of the medicine to the disease part. And in the few aphorisms of the yesterday, we have seen that when you apply or when you know about the pathogenetic power of the medicines, and when you know the natural disease of the patient, and it is based, both base has to combine on the law of similia, then health must ensue. The only possibility is the health. So this is what Master Hanuman wanted to convey us in this manner. So in continuation to this, and in aphorism number 149, it is written that if the disease of the long standing, it will take a longer time to resolve. If it is complicated with the allopathic bungling of the treatment. So this is what Master Hanuman convey to all of us. So continuation this process of understanding the applications of therapeutic or pathogenetic knowledge of the medicine to the disease part. So if aphorism number 150 says, if a person's complain of one or more trivial symptoms that have been only observed a short time previously, the physician should not regard this as a fully developed disease and that require a serious medical aid. A slight alterations in the diet and regimen will usually suffice to dispel such indisposition. So this is what the aphorism whenever the patient comes to you and the patient is giving you a minor or trivial symptoms of one or more trivial symptoms. Say for example, yesterday I ate something and today I got acidity or today I got one or two loose motion, but my energy and everything is okay. So this a short time previously observed a more trivial, and this symptoms is not the fully developed disease symptoms. So in that case, Master Hahnemann convey us that do not prescribe. So the first and foremost things what we have to learn is that when to prescribe and when not to prescribe. This is the most important aspect of our understanding in each and every cases. So if the person is come to us with the more trivial symptoms, at that time we have to have idea that we have to prescribe or not. So this is what the Master Hahnemann telling that there is a slight alteration in the diet and regimen. So that's why Master Hahnemann convey us to give a proper diet and give a certain regimen to change that trivial symptoms, and it usually dispel the indisposition. So most important aspect of learning is when not to prescribe. So many a time you are dealing with the chronic cases, and when you think of the person is coming down from the higher layer to the lower layer with the more trivial symptoms, or from syphilitic disease to the soric disease of a more trivial symptoms, at that time, you do not prescribe. Sir always says, Dr. Vijayakar sir always says, you have to become a third empire to watch and your hands off. Do not intervene. So this is what you have to understand from this. Even in follow-up, also you have to understand that there are certain trivial symptoms patient complain of you, and at that time you must need to prescribe, but that is placebo only. So very important aspect of understanding is when not to prescribe. But now the question is, this is what in acute trivial symptom, but the patient complain of a few violent suffering. That means very important that it is acute in nature and violent sufferings. The physicians usually find on investigation the several other symptoms beside, although of a slighter character, which furnish a complete picture of the disease. So in previous slide, we have seen that the more one or more trivial symptoms does not com, com, furnish a complete picture of the disease. But when you got the violent suffering, specifically acute conditions, then physician will usually find, or on investigations also, you will find that there are several other symptoms which furnish the complete picture of the disease. So as we have learned in aphorism number 82 also, when the acute disease are striking to the what we call as the patients, so patient is giving you a more striking pictures in acute conditions. And in aphorism number 99 also it was written by the Master Hahnemann that whenever there is acute suffering, so every symptoms is self-evident to the patients or as to the doctors. So it gives a complete picture of the disease. And the aphorism number 152 says that the worse the acute disease is, that is very important. When the acute disease is worse, the worse the acute disease is, of so much the more numerous and the striking symptom is it generally composed of. So don't worry about understand that acute is very dangerous. So acute disease gives you a very PQRS symptoms in each and every cases. So that is what very important aspect of. I will share one of the case of a patient. The patient came to me with the complaint of there is a small boil on the dorsal aspect of the finger, middle finger, and it was a reddish and inflamed boil. And the patient says this is since 2 to 3 days. And I asked about what was the pain. He said that there is a severe pain and there is a severe pain and the pain is so much so that I need to cut my finger. So that kind of the pain gives you a more striking symptom. So in that case, the cut mutilate desired the body and acute violent outburst of the symptoms with the redness, as I described belladonna to the patient. So whenever there is an acute condition, worse the acute disease is, the more numerous and more striking symptoms it is generally composed of. So this is what something that everything is self-evident and you will get the remedy very handy. But with so much the more certainty, may be suitable remedy for it be found. So whenever you get the striking symptoms, you get the suitable remedy to be found. Now, what was condition? What Master Hahnemann is telling us that if there be a sufficient number of medicine known with respect to their positive action to choose from. So this is what Master Hahnemann giving idea that if you know which remedy act in acute in these conditions, then and then you apply the law of similia to that because you know the actions of the remedy and when to choose from this. So this is what we have deal. So in previous reading of our theory of acute books, whenever we have read the symptoms of the materia medica from the, so we have made a key pointer, three triangular key pointers, and that is giving us idea that if we know thorough about the medicines, then and then we can apply it into acute conditions. So this is what very important what Master Hahnemann telling us to us. Among the list of the symptoms of many medicine, it will not be difficult to find one from whose separate disease ailment an antitype of the curative artificial disease. Very like the totality of the symptoms of the natural disease may be constructed, and such a medicine is desired remedy. So we also know that in theory of acute understanding, we have seen that we are not dealing with just the acute, we are dealing with the man. So we have to considering the activity part, we have to considering the thermal part, we have to considering the first part. So we have constructed the totality of the symptoms in acute disease also, and on the basis of that and the few tracking symptoms of the PQRS we prescribe on. So this is what the master wisdom telling us in this aphorism. So again, we are in the journey of continuing the understanding of the genetic materia medica. Up till now, we have understood the book part of this. So in genetic materia medica, we need to treat the man in disease, and Sir always says the man is made up of the system. System is made up of the tissue, organs, and organ is made up of the tissue. Tissues of cells, and cells is made up of the genes, and genes controlling everything. So when the gene is controlling everything, so that's why we are dealing with the individual to a genetic level. So considering this, we have read about the process that the genetic understanding gives rise to a four process of the mental makeup of the patients, the physical makeup of the individual, the general makeup, and the disease makeup. So mental makeup gives rise to expressions or inexpressions of the gene leading to extroverted and introverted, the will, the intellect, the moral, the sensitivity, and the attachment, and the conscience, which is of the mental makeup. And from that, we have understood that everything is governed by the genes. Even our emotions is also governed by the genes. Our intellect is also governed by the genes. So that is what we are dealing with. And in further continuations, we are today starting with physical makeup of the man to understand the genetics. So what could be the physical makeup? Even also we have understood some of the automatic behavior has to be taken into consideration because that automatic behavior is also governed by our genetic code. The physical makeup, these are the phenotypic characteristic of the every individual whose bases are the protein that are derived from the genetic code. Their considerations and the correct interpretation is very useful tool toward the scientific and the genetic similitude. These are the direct representations of the gene if the interpretation is correct. The most of the students are in the habit of neglecting this physical makeup to understand the math. So, what was the physical makeup? So, physical makeup gives rise to a structure and character of the persons as a physics. So, in physics, we have to see the hair, face, build, height, postures and the muscles fiber. So when we are dealing with this, so we have to understand that what was the hair, what was the characteristic of it, and what was the interpretations behind it at the psychological level, and what are the most likely the remedy. So this is what Dr. Vijayakar sir has made us easy understand the persons or by looking them into a case. So whenever you are seeing the person who having the smooth and thin hair, so that is what something that is the every hair is combed properly, and on the basis of that, that hair is interpreted as a fastidious, and most likely the remedies are arsenic. So these are what the sir's clinical observations, and on the basis of lot of observations, sir have made this chart for a handy tool to apply into your practice. So this is what you have to understand. Okay, thin and raised hair, that means the hair is thin, but it is raising towards up. So this is showing that the hair is in a mode of a defined, and the remedy could be the mercury and the opium. So there are no rubrics was given in the repertory based on this. Okay, but this is what Dr. Vijayakar sir has given an idea about the clinical experience of the remedy. So when sir is applying certain remedy and sir is getting result in that case, and on the basis of that, he found that this remedy has the thin and smooth hair, this remedy has a thin and raised hair. So these are what their characteristic along with their likely remedy. The thick tough and stuck to the scalp. This is what something which we called as a physiognomy. On the basis of physiognomy, you have to have interpretations of everything, and then you have to apply into our Materia Medica knowledge, and then you combine both to prescribe at the level of physical genetic expressions. The thick, tough, stuck to calf hair are the magnesium, the curly and wavy hairs like Ophidia, the messy and untidy hairs like the sulfur and tarantula, thin and early balding that suggests there is a timidity and a lack of confidence. Most of time we have the bald remedy like the Paraitas, Silica and tuberculum. The brittle hair easily hair do not have a nutrition. So whenever there is no nutrition, the person's having the fear of not getting nutrition. So in psychological level, they have the fear of poverty, and the remedy could be the kali kapsurinum and fluoric acid. The face tab sir has given the idea that when there is a three type of the faces, it is the mental face, the vital face, and the motive face. The mental face indicating the pear-shaped or a pointed, thin, sharp features, pointed chin. It is a sensitive people who have this. So this sensitivity gives rise to a psoric face, and this is a psoric face. So we have seen it in the miasm book That face type gives rise to miasm also. The mental phase are the sensitive, intelligent, conscientious, and the artistic. So, on the basis of Sir prescribe the phosphorus to many patients and they get the result. The second phase is called as the round, chubby with thick, bushy hair. This is the vital phase. So, vital phase mostly associated with the money-minded personality, uh, cheerful personality, good orator, and precocious personality. It is not precarious, it is a precocious personality. So the remedy can be the lachesis and the opium. And when we think about the motive face gives rise to a prominent jaw and a cheekbone with a strong jawline and the squarish face. So this is giving rise to a strong personality, the positive personality, the courageous and a leader type of personality. So when you find this type of the squarish face or a strong jaw with the squarish face and prominent cheekbone, you can think of the metals and the calcareas and the barytas. The build can be the short. So we have seen in our old Materia Medica, and when we I used to learn Materia Medica from S.K. Dubey sir's Materia Medica textbook of Materia Medica, in which the Constitution has been written. So the symptoms of Constitution with this remedy is the tall, this remedy is the short, this remedy is the obese, this remedy is the fatty, this remedy is like this. So on the basis of that build also we have the idea that this is the remedy. So when we think of the short, lean and thin personality, we can think of the calcarea phos, telcor, natramur and sulfur. When we see the build is short and obese, we can think of the dwarfish personality like the Baraita carb and Madorinum. When we think of obese, so you know that all the obesity remedy like calcarea, capsicum, graphitis, ferrum and phytolacca and very important, obese but very active. So you can think of the opium and mercury. Again, the height. So height gives rise to too much tall or too much short or a dwarfish. So when on the basis of height also you have the idea that a tall personality like calcarea phos, creosote, phos, phosphorus and tuberculin. So all phosphorus are there in the tall. Stunted or dwarfish growth, we can think of Madorinum, Syphilinum, Pareto, Carp, Bacteria, Phos, and sulfur. So these are the few characteristics of the height. Then the posture. So whenever the patient comes to you and sitting in front of you, so the posture of the patient also gives rise to a certain characteristic of the genes, and that gives rise to a certain interpretations and certain remedies. So whenever the person sitting like this and the chin is tilted upward and backward, so that is something that they are showing that I am something higher than you. So they are very haughty kind of personality, and the remedy likely to be a platinum. Erect with the slight tilts forward like this. This is what something the anxious personality when the patient comes to you and they become more worried about that. So this is what the argentum nitricum having the more anxiety, anticipation, and everything. The person sitting erect posture, sitting at the edges of the chair. So this is what again you can think of the anxious personality. In spite of having a big space in the chair, the person sitting on the edges because of there is a lot of anxiety at the level of psyche. So this is the few remedies like a Kalis, all you know the all Kalis are more anxious, calcium, phosphorus, and sulfur. And when you think of the person coming to you and having a stoop shoulder like this, or rested back with one hand on the chair and with or without the leg on and rested hand on the another chair. So this is something called as a casual attitude of the person, and the remedy could be the sulfur. This is what Sir's experience has given us the idea by just looking the postures. It is not just by looking the postures you can prescribe the sulfur, but along with that physical makeup, you have to have the mental, you have to have the general, and you have to have the disease makeup. So when everything is matches, you prescribe on this aspect. and looking to the muscles fibers. So when this is showing that the muscles fibers give you the idea that when the person who shakes your hand, so how the person shakes your hand, that also gives a clear indication that the hand of the person is a rigid or hand of the person is a soft. So if it is a rigid, it can be a barita, it can be a ferrum. It's a rigid fibers. When it is soft, you can think of the calcarea cup. So these are the few indications of the physical makeup. So this short tool toward the genetic similitude. This is either because they don't understand their importance and don't observe it, or even if they observe it, they don't give it enough importance while selections of the final remedy. So this is very important to understand the physical makeup. The third point in this is the general makeup. The general makeup gives us the idea that the activity or the speed of the person. So this act, we know that act is the primary reflection of the life or the living being, as we have seen in theory of acute book also. So anything in this world which does not change at all is called death. A speed and the type of actions is very important. Every individual has a certain speed to do his work. Every individual has a certain speed to do his work. Some are very slow and lethargic, while others are very active and fast. But the speed is not the same as activity. Many a times, patient comes to us and says that they work the whole day, they are involved in the various foundations, but they are very slow in their work. They take a lot of time in completing each task that they have been entrusted. So this is what the basic understanding that there are the slow speed remedy or there are the fast speed remedy. So at the level of gene, their actions is the slow and their actions is the fast. So at the cellular level also, the disease level also, their actions is fast, their actions is slow. So when we think of the fast remedy in the speed, we can think of the nut-arsenic, calcarea, phosphorus, aconite, moxol, par, lactose, spiders, nitric acids, and stramonium. These are the fast remedy. Few indications of the fast remedy. There are many more from this list also. And the slow remedy, as we know, that the ammonium, alumina, baryta, hellebores, calcarea, carbons, even lacases can go into a slowness. The lycopodium can go into slowness. Acid can go into slowness because of the weakness, the buforana, ambra, and the magnesium. So these are the few remedy which gradually develop the disease as well as the speed of work is slow. Another general features considering of the appetite and craving and everything. So these are also a good marker towards the genetic constitutional similimum, but they are to be taken with the caution. So most of the time these are altered with the family habits and the regional taste of the individual. So we should try and avoid to enter the case through these markers, but instead may take their help to confirm certain remedies. So very important understanding that when you find that there is a specific craving for particular things and that cravings or that specific aversion to particular things, that has to be taken into consideration at the end when you have to rule in and rule out the remedy. So when you have to confirm the lycopodium, so you must need to ask about the desire for the warm food. So it can be lycopodium or calcarea ars. If the person is having a desire for the ice, you can think of the mercury and madorinum. If the person desire for the cold refreshing things, you can think of the acid phosphorus al. So this is where the few indications help us to understand that this is what the genetics is craving for. Now the law, there is one law, desire comes when deficiency arises. So this is what something that if there is a deficiency inside our body, then automatic genetic signal is giving our body to get a desired thing into it. So many a time you find that most of the acids are having a weakness. So then most of the acids require energy, and they get the energy from the citrus or a refreshing cold food. So this is what desire for this things. And hypothetically, if we understood that the calcarea people, there is a lack of the calcium, the fragility of the bone, and the chalk like, so they require a chalk, lime, slate, or indigestible things to get the calcium from this. So that is a specific desire. Desire comes when there is a deficiency arise. The need of the sleep, the pattern of the sleep, position of the sleep is to be given importance. Also, dream is a very significant, can be considered to differentiate the remedy. So, sleep gives you rejuvenation, sleep gives you energy, and you get better from the sleep. So, when there is a disturbances of the sleep and there is a pattern of the sleep, that has to be taken into considerations as the understanding of the genetic individual. Physical senses, as we have discussed, the sensitivity at the mental plane, the same sensitivity as reflected at the physical plane. This sensitivity sometimes becomes very, very exaggerated and it becomes very important entry point in certain fast moving psychosyphilitic cases. The symptoms of traveling sickness can be very strong. The syphilitic symptoms and based upon its intensity can be considered as the entry point in some of the fast progressing psychosyphilitic cases. The patient is in a psychosis and suddenly some event has been happen and goes into syphilitic state. And at that time, if you found certain senses, the physical senses got affected, and you find certain things altered, you can take into consideration as an entry point. So, for example, when we think of the eyes is sensitive to light, darkness, desire for, or aversion to light, or sensitive to dazzling or disco lights, etc. etc. The ear, we all know the acute senses of the hearing, the sensitive to noise or a sensitive to music. So we have known that one of the remedy that they are sensitive to the slightest noise, even the noise of anything which goes directly into ear or directly into the bones and it penetrates the bone. So this is what the Theridion is one of the remedy. One of the patient comes to me in my clinic and he give me a sensitivity of hearing that is even when I used to uplift the fold or unfold the books also and if the paper the voice noise of the paper I cannot tolerate or even someone write with the scribble on the paper and if there is a certain noise sharp noise is coming up they can be sensitive to. So this is what the pharum asaram and theridion are sensitive to the crackling of the paper also. Persons who are very very sensitive to certain smells or the cooking of the food and that lead to the disgust and everything. So these are the very important aspect to understand. Even the taste, can be perverted, insipid, or watery, etc. So sometimes many acute conditions of the persons when the fever, the person telling you that I used to taste the water is like a sweet water or a sugary water. So this is what water tastes sweet. There are 4 5 remedies in that. On the basis of that, we prescribe. the remedy. So these are the very very significant point you can consider into a case. Touch, sensitive to touch or aversion to touch are the psychosyphilitic in nature. The character of the discharge is very significant indicators toward the right genetic substitutional similar. Like that are the stingy ropey discharge in calibi and the gluey discharge in graphite, etc. Now the side affinity is very important understanding the side and the brain dominance for the years together homeopaths like the Kent, Bogart and Bonigosen etc. had been successfully using the knowledge of the side affections with the wonderful result. But after that homeopaths have started neglecting this great indication towards the genetic similar. This was mainly because the lack of knowledge of these great indicators and no proper correlations of it. it was the effort of Dr. Vijayakar sirs and the Military School of Homeopathy that went into extensive details of the importance of the embryological milestone that raise its importance toward the selection of genetic stimuli. It is only after this side determination that the pole of the embryo are determined. So this is very important understanding of the sides, and nowadays our lot of case taking of the structural disorders based on the side affinity and asking the certain questions on the basis of the side and the conflict theory. So, by understanding the embryological background and understanding the functions of the right brain dominance and the left brain dominance gives rise to a characteristic. So, as we know that the right side of the body is controlled by the brain dominance, and the left side of the body is controlled by the right side of the brain dominance. So if we know the right brain dominance, which controls the left side of the body, gives having a sensitivity with the left side is associated with sensitivity, creativity, imaginations, artistic, drawing, poetic, spiritual, philosophical, historical, like illusions and delusions and etc. When we think of left brain dominance, which controlling the right side of the body, and the right side of the body is analyzed into it having a characteristic of the analytical, positive, uh, logic, the mental qualities, work, industrious, language, money, calculative, trust, and dominating. So when we think of these few indications of the light and left in dominance, on the basis of that we can understand certain things. But again, there is a lot of exceptions in this also. So as the embryo grow in the intrauterine life, the first major event is the formation of the synapses, which determine the side in the two part. So also as has been revealed by the recent researchers, the side affected have basic relation with the behavior of the individuals in a holistic science, which require us to make use of both mental and physical characteristics while making a successful genetic-based prescription. This is very valuable tool to enhance the technique of case taking and the prescriptions. So side is most important in case taking also and in prescriptions also. The knowledge of the side affinity and brain dominance can give us the insight into innate characteristic of a certain individual. So most of time while taking a case, a student find it difficult to identify the innate characteristic of the individual, which is hidden under a very thick cover of psychosis. This is partly because either the patient does not feel it necessary to tell about it or he wants to portray an image which is far from the reality. This is all psychosis. It is combining the scientifically proven knowledge of the side affected, right or left, and then the innate mental characteristic of the individual with the mental makeup and the side affections elicited in the proving of the homeopathic drugs and the repertory. The final selections of the homeopathic genetic stimulum become quite sure and also present the physicians with the everlasting homeopathic cure. So left-sided brain dominance, so it controls the right side body. So their quality at the mental level, they are very, very strong, the dominating, angry, and achiever kind of personality. But if we have a timid or a mild person with the right-sided affections, we can think of. So this is what very important. The right-sided persons, but quality is missing like a strong and dominating and angry and achiever. You can think of the Baraita, Kali, Carbon, Calcaria, Ignatia, and Ali. Now, right-sided brain dominance, which controls the left side of the body. So, when the left side of the body is affected, the personality could be very mild, sensitive, and timid. But if we see, this is the exception. So on the basis of exceptions, our medicine selection become very, very easy. If we see a left-sided patient who is very, very strong and dominating personality, we can directly think of the ferrum, platina, lacasis, and the sulfur. So is giving us the idea that the brain dominance, side affinity, and the mental quality. When you combine these things, you will get the idea that which remedy has to be prescribed on the basis of that genetic code. So right brain controls the left side and the left brain controls the right side. So calcarea, most calcareas are timid and the right-sided. Calcarea cab in psychosis is right-sided. In Sora, it is left-sided. Calcarea floor, it is tough, money-minded, but left-sided because of the insecurity, anxiety of the future, fear of poverty, etc. So most carbons are the money-minded and right-sided, except for the graphite, which is sensitive and thus left-sided. So these are the few exceptions you have to keep in your mind, and whenever you are dealing with the case, so you have to keep that point into consideration that this is a, uh money-minded remedy, but it is a left-sided remedy, and it is a slowing and timid kind of personality. It can be a carbon, and the carbon from carbon, the left-sided carbon is graphite. So lycopodium, the symptom travel from the right and go to the left. Here the lycopodium appear to be dominating dictatorial because of right-sided or left brain dominance. He also has love for the power. He appear to be strong from outside, but then is also very sensitive internally. He is money-minded, achiever, and bossy, thus right-sided. But when we come in contact with the lycopodium, we find that he is very sensitive, emotional, and soft from inside. He desires flattery and gives away everything when flattered. He is so sensitive that he weeps when he is thanked. Thus, it is left-sided. So you can think of that lycopodium can be both-sided, but side domination from the right-sided to the left-sided. Now, sir, I always warn when you are thinking of these sides, do not directly base on this only. Okay, so the caution that the side affection should only be considered if the particular side is affected for more than 2 or 3 instances, or the pathology associated with the 2 or 3 places, like the warts, renal stone, bones, pains in the extremity, etc. So no sporadic or one-time affection should be given important as in the side. Then the thermals, as we also learn in the theory of acute also, the thermal, the heat productions in every individual depends upon the basal metabolic rate, the muscles activity, the amount of the epinephrine and norepinephrine, thyroxines, and the sympathetic stimulation. All these are different in every individual depending upon his or her genetic constitutions. To maintain these heat productions or heat balance, in every constitution so that it works normally, the amount of the heat radiated has to be controlled. This means the people in whom the production of heat is low will have a thick subcutaneous fat to conserve the heat, and also they feel more comfortable in warm climate. The question to be asked to elicit thermals is what can you tolerate more, heat or cold? Also, some physicians give more importance to where the patients stay. So based on that, we know that the few are the chili remedy, few are the hot remedy. So what they wear, what water they bath with, this may all be helpful, but may also sometimes mislead since these all are subject to change as per the habit. So for more understanding on the thermal thirst, you can read the theory of acute. As also we know the thirst, as we know, talking of the thermals in the same way, the amount of the water required by the various constitutions will be different. We can neither plant a rose plant in the desert and expect it to grow, nor can we plant a rice in the dry area and expect it to grow. In the same way, every individual has its own peculiar water intake capacity. Some may get satiety in few sips, while some may need to drink a lot of at a time. But some may not want water at all. So this is also the thirsty and thirstless remedy. So for more understanding, you can read theory of acutes, or also we have the videos on the theory of acutes lecture series. You can go through that and you will find it useful. Now, the approach. So, sir always gives the idea that so this is what we are reading the applications of the materia medica knowledge to the disease knowledge. and sir also gives us the approach in each and every cases. So when we are dealing with cases, your approach should be like this. So for understanding of this approach and reading of this book, sir always I give an idea that you must need to know about the theory of separation, you must need to know about the theory of acute, and you must need to know about the theory of miasm as a pathological background. So when you have this idea, then and then your approach has to be decided accordingly. So approach as homeopathy is individualistic science, the approach to every case has to be very individualistic. So there is no hard and fast rule that every time you have to go into the same directions. But the approach is individual. But in every case, the approach toward the case will change as per the fundamental miasm. So here what Master Hahnemann is telling that the best discovery of my is the miasm, and Dr. Vijayakar also says that the every approach of the case is based on the miasm, and that is what underlying defense process. Once the case is taken, we have a lot of data to prescribe upon. We have a maze of symptoms, but it is important to understand which symptom has to be given more importance and the evolution's order. In every individual, the disease progressed from the sora to the psychosis and from psychosis to the syphilis. From the chart on the miasm, it will be much easier for you to ascertain the underlying predominant miasm in the case. Once the fundamental miasm is ascertained, and then it has to be matched with the underlying sora, as all the disease or the miasm bloom from the sora. Then it is the art of the physician to make the appropriate selections of the symptoms of that particular miasm and then select the rubric pertaining to that miasm for the correct genetic constitutional similarity. So here I want to share with you what I have learned in the last 30 years of my practice. So combining the 20 more years, so this is what the extract of the more than 50 years of SARS practice approach to the case. So there are different type of the cases. So cases like the acute cases or the chronic cases. So when you have the acute cases, you can use the chart of the acute or the exciting cause given most important aphorism number 5. When you have acute exacerbations of the chronic disease or the slow progressing psychotic chronic cases like a VARS, diabetes, hypertension, Crohn's, then the Kantian approach has to be followed. So what is the Kantian approach? Here, sir has given a 7-8 step of this. So step 1, the identify the miasm first, then the journey of the disease up to this level, then the cause, if any, if recent, if relevant, has to be taken into consideration. Find the rubric of the mind and the general disposition, then general thermal thrust, peculiar physical, and the generals. Then repertorize the case, and after the repertorization, differentiation of remedy according to the patient disposition. So in this, everything has to be taken into consideration. If the disease of the slow progressing psychosyphilitic, so here up to now the psychosis is there, but if the disease is progressing from the slowly from psycho to syphilitic, like a rheumatoid arthritis, the psoriatic arthropathy, diabetic complications, hypertension complications, etc. Here the approach has been changed from the Kantian way to the Boni-Hussein's way. So in this way, the identity of the miasm is most important because we are dealing with the defense process of the individual at genetic level. So identity of the miasm is most important than the journey of the disease cause if recent or if relevant, then it has to be taken. If the miasm has been already bloomed, the cause has no relevance. Then the find the syphilitic as well as the soric rubric of the mind and the general dispositions, then the general thermal and thrust, then the peculiar physical and the generals in the peculiar psychotic and soric rubric to confirm the prescriptions, and then repertorize and differentiation according to the disposition. So in each and every cases, you need to take general, you need to take particulars, you need to take physicals, you need to take mental and the dispositions. So disposition is most important in each and every cases. The approach to the fourth case is when you have the fast moving fatal illness or out of control or syphilosoric or frank syphilitic conditions. In this case, first identify the miasm cause. If it is syphilitic in nature, then it has to be taken into consideration. If not, then it is not. Find out the syphilitic rubric of the miasm of the mind, then step general thermal thrust option, it is optional. So when you are dealing with the out of control or the fast moving syphilitic conditions, then you have to have a thermal thrust is optional. Okay. Then the physicals and generals exaggerated, anything which is exaggerated, you have to take into considerations, then repertorize, and then differentiate remedy according to the present disposition. That means after the disease has been developed, the disposition has been changed, and that changed disposition has to be taken into consideration. So this is what present disposition is to be taken into consideration. So while discussing with you the various approaches, I wish to share a case of an 11-year-old girl with the space occupying lesion, SOL in the cervical spine. She was carried in the clinic by her parents and was not able to walk at all. She had undergone two major surgical operations for the same, but there was no long-lasting relief, as the underlying process was not taken care of. I heard the whole case taken by my assistants, and based on the psychotic history, that is the mental pictures of the patient, his disposition, general, thermal, thirst, peculiar, uh, physicals, was prescribed a carcinogen. It showed a wonderful regression of the SOL with the complete disappearance of all the symptoms. We all were very much amazed with the speed with which the whole lesions had regressed. But to my surprise, 6 months later, I saw the same girl entering my cabin carried by her mother. The SOL that has disappeared had come back again and was bigger in size than before. I was surprised to see the report. This time I myself retook the history and found that the patient would experience numbness on the part of that should that she would lie on. This is the syphilitic trait. Immediately I saw the rubric and found that the carcinogen did not cover this syphilitic trait that girl was exhibiting. Based on this newfound rubric and considering even her psoriatic history, I prescribed silicia, which comes very close to the carcinogen. She got completely cured after the single dose of the silica. This is the case that taught me the importance of the syphilitic rubric in the slow-moving psychosyphilitic cases, which should which should be coupled with the psoriatic trait. So we need to know what was the sora that over the year bloomed into psychosis and then syphilis. So here the sora represent as the need of the persons, and you will need to understand the need. So for understanding of better need, you go to the YouTube channel, Happy Gujarat channel, and in this there is a playlist of the need and sensitivity and the disposition. So you go through that and you can watch the video so that you can get the idea that the need is most important. Now it has been 4 years and recently she came to my clinic walking and very happy with no complaint at all. This shows how important it is to consider the right symptoms of the right mechanism while making the correct genetic-based constitutional stimulus. So, what Sir says that I have tried to give you an understanding of what genetic-based homeopathy is. Now, let me come to the part of homeopathy which has been considered as the most confusing and difficult. The stalwart like Dr. Kent, Dr. Herring, and Dr. Allen, who have written volumes of Materia Medica, were all successful prescribers as they kept themselves updated with the recent advances in the world of science and the human sciences and made proper applications of this knowledge in their practice. Their book also show a certain pattern in which they were thinking and understanding every drug. Students today are finding it difficult to understand those books on Materia Medica because they are not aware of the scientific advances that were made at those times and are not able to understand the thinking process that ran through the whole drug. Now it is like a maze of symptoms. The student remember a few symptoms of every drug and make use of them in a practice without any significant result, as they lack proper understanding of every drug. I remember that when I was a student, I would relate myself to the drug being taught in the class. Many a time we do. I am the phosphorus, I am the sulfur, I am the electric acid, I am the lycopodium. Many a time we do like that. Many a time I had taken this drug thinking that they are my constitutional remedy and ended up proving them. In recent times, the various authors have tried to make the understanding of the Materia Medica clearer by their books. They have not incorporated the recent scientific advances, thus complicating the understanding more as every book describes a different aspect of the drug. When we try to find the genetic constitutional similarium of the patient, we need to know the genetic makeup of the individual. And what is the genetic makeup of the individual? The genetic makeup of the individual incorporate physical makeup, the mental makeup, the general makeup, the tendency to the disease makeup, proneness of the certain organs and system affections, proneness of the side that is more affected, and the miasm. It means the defense process at the work at the genetic level that controls the whole picture of that individual. So when you are considering the genetic makeup, you have to consider these 7 points. If the materia medica of every individual is learned in this manner, whereby we know the genetic characteristic of every remedy, it will be easy for us to find the genetic constitutional similarity. As we know that every individual is here on this earth to survive, the survival of the fittest is the rule of the world as per Darwin's theory. In order to survive, one has to make adaptations, and these adaptations are brought about to save the whole and are related to the inherited genetic trait. Thus, all the tendency exhibited and the deficiency seen and the modifications made by the individual throughout his or her life, whether in the mental or the physical sphere, are the defense mechanism at work. For example, the startling tendency of the Kali Kab is its defense to ward off dangers because this remedy is timid and anxious. The slowness and sluggishness of the calcarea is also a defense adopted by it to shirk away from the dangers out of cautiousness so that no one can comes near them and hurt them. The sensitivity of Laxvomita to noise, causing anger, and easy weakening of pulsatilla, the rudeness of the chamomilla, etc., are the defense mechanism at work. When this natural tendency or the defenses become exaggerated or pathological, then they appear to us as a disease or the illness. Every constitution or the remedy has to have some faulty tendency somewhere in the body, either in the physical sphere or on the mental sphere. This means that if your bones are weak, the bone may get fractured at the slightest cause. If blood vessels are weak, they may rupture at the slightest cause. If the muscles or the tendons are weak, they may get ruptured or the sprain at the slightest cause. Thus, if the person falls or meets with a minor accident, those who have genetically weak bone will develop fractures. Those whose tendons are weak but bones are strong will escape only with the sprain, and those who have weak blood vessels may show ecchymosis or the frank bleeding. So this is what something you have to take into considerations. We need to know what is the weak point in every remedy or a group that will get invariably affected when he or she falls ill, beside which part or the function or the structure of the mind or the body is that particular remedy or a group ready to sacrifice. Like in calcarea, the strength is sacrificed. In Baraita, the growth is sacrificed. For years, homeopaths have wondered how the provings of remedy have thrown up contradictory or unrelated traits. A remedy that is supposed to be fearful is also seen in the rubric courageous. The opium that is full of fears will appear also in the rubric courageous. Opium that appear in the rubric dull or a torpor will also be seen in the rubric vivacious and quick to act and alert, etc. So opium that has a senses dull blunted will also seen in the senses acute, and both are the three marks. So it will also be seen in the senses perverted and senses vanishing off. Opium represents fearlessness as well as cowardice. Same as the legacies is present in absent-minded forgetfulness, like the forget mental exertion from the forgetful word meaning as well as memory active 3 marks. Same way, natrum, mure, and arsenic will be seen 3 marks in anger and 3 marks in mild also. A conscientious remedy like a Stephenina can be adulterous, the benevolent aurum can be vindictive and malicious, the fastidious nux vomica, graphitis, platina, phosphorus may be dirty, and above all, most affectionate, loving, hugging, caressing remedy like phosphorus can be seen in the indifferent to loved one and misanthropic. So this inconsistency or variance in trait and disposition was referred to as a polarity or a poles by some authors. But this type of explanation that has no scientific understanding, explanations, and consistency makes homeopathy all the more complicated, enigmatic, and confusing. A more detailed understanding of the miasm has been explained in the book The End of My Assumptions of Miasm is the part 3 predictive homeopathy series. The presentations of the every drug will depend upon the underlying fundamental defense processes in the body. So very important aspect of this. In this book, every drug has been explained with the basic understanding of the miasm, recent scientific advances, human physiology, embryology, and the genetics. Based upon my experience of the 30 years, I have made an attempt to correlate my understanding of the physiology with provings in our Materia Medica. With these hypothetical correlations, I am sure most of you will be able to understand this process and improve your knowledge and understanding of the Materia Medica. With this book, I am not attempting to introduce to you a different pictures of every drug, but on the contrary, my attempt here is to improve the understanding of the drug that has been proved by our masters. So I have tried to give you a trimagic pictures of every drug. Every drug has here has been represented in its own unique way that will be enable you to remember it much faster because of its individualistic presentation. Also incorporated few cases that will provide you with a hint towards identifying a particular constitutions in an individual. Also, the use of flowchart will make the differentiations of the drug quick and easy to remember. In the first volume, I have covered Brita, Calcarea, Kali, and carbon group with the explanations of the various rubric and innumerable comparable drugs. From the above-mentioned literature, I wish to introduce all my readers to the new world of the genetic-based scientific homeopathy. I wish that all my readers would consider it as the base to develop into genetic-based scientific homeopathic prescribers. Best luck. This is what the best wishes by Dr. Vijayakar sir to all of us. So we conclude the day today, and from tomorrow we will continue with the. Yes, anyone need to ask questions, you can write in chat box.
Hi.
हाँ जी,
Hi, Dr. Gohel. How are you?
fine, all well, fine, fine. Good
Especially
morning.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Uh, ये जो साइड अफेक्शन की बात करी है, do we have to determine it by the affection of the site कि किस साइड पे कौन सी मतलब is the most affected, or do we have to determine it by the handedness of the person, like Hammer says? क्योंकि एक तरफ से सर बात कर रहे हैं पोलर पोल की कि
हम्म,
डिटर्मिन होता है एम्ब्रियो,
हम्म,
बाकी जो साइड डिटर्मिन होती है वो मयाज्म से डिटर्मिन होती है, अगर राइट साइडेड बार बार होती है। अगर हम हैमर की थ्योरी पढ़ें तो हैमर की थ्योरी में क्या है कि जो फर्स्ट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, अगर सिर्फ कॉर्टेक्स के कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, द फर्स्ट कॉर्टेक्स कॉन्फ्लिक्ट फॉल्स ऑन अ पर्टिकुलर साइड,
हम्म,
डिटर्मिनिंग कि कौन सा वो लेफ्ट साइडेड है, राइट साइडेड है, मेल है या फीमेल।
हम्म,
उसके बाद सेकंड कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑपोजिट साइड पे फॉल करता है, और फिर
हम्म,
थर्ड कॉन्फ्लिक्ट उस साइड पे फॉल करता है जो ज्यादा हैवी हो। जिसका
Hmm.
कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हैवियर। ठीक
Hmm.
है।
Hmm.
जो एक्चुअल डिटर्मिनेशन होती है वो साइड की, दैट इज बाय टेस्टिंग द हैंड्स की वायरनेस कौन सी है। उसके 8 या 10 टेस्ट होते हैं। पहला टेस्ट होता है, आपने हैंड को क्लैप कराया और क्लैप करके देखा कि कौन सा डोमिनेंट साइड है, या बॉटल खोल
Bottle
के
cap,
देखा।
bottle cap options. Yeah.
हाँ, या बच्चे को उठाया एंड ऑल।
Hmm.
अब यहाँ पे मुझे क्लैरिटी नहीं मिल रही है कि हमें ये वायर्डनेस देखनी चाहिए बिकॉज ये जेनेटिकली आई होगी, बाकी सारी मायाजम से डिटरमिन हो रही है कि कौन सा कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ज्यादा है, उसका डिफेंस क्या है। तो
Hmm.
यहाँ पे थोड़ी सी मुझे क्लैरिटी आप दे पाओ।
मतलब आपका क्वेश्चन क्या है? आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड बट आपका क्वेश्चन स्टिल नॉट अंडरस्टूड।
क्वेश्चन
आप
है
क्या पूछना चाहते हैं? हाँ।
कि सर ने यहाँ पे बताया है कि साइड डोमिनेंस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। ठीक है।
हम्म।
जिस एक तरफ से वो बात कर रहे हैं पोलर पोल्स की, कि कौन सी साइड जो है एम्ब्रियो के साथ में डिटरमिन होती है। अगर वो पोल्स की बात कर रहे हैं तब तो हमें हैंडेडनेस पे जाना चाहिए।
हम्म।
अगर वो बात कर रहे हैं राइट साइडेड, जैसे आपने उसमें भी लिखा हुआ कि दो तीन, मतलब इट्स नॉट वन पार्ट ऑफ द बॉडी, इट शुड बी 2-3 पार्ट्स ऑफ द बॉडी, दैट इज मायाजम डिटर्म, दैट इज नॉट जेनेटिकली डिटर्म। ये यहाँ पे ना मुझे क्लैरिटी नहीं मिल रही है कि हमें
वो
कौन सा लेना चाहिए।
या
According to me, we should take the handedness.
see, handedness gives you idea that which was the dominant part of the body. Okay.
Mm.
So if it is the right-handedness, that means the person is working with the right hand and his dominant part is the right-sided. So the most of the control part from the left brain. Okay, so handedness gives rise to this. What Hammer has given
Mm.
idea that Hammer is not given anywhere. It was that okay, any conflict happen and it directly strike to the left brain or any conflict directly to the right brain. It was not written by the Hammer anywhere in this. It was the things he has given that in a MRI scan that he found in many cases that if the person having a certain disorders and he go for the MRI scan, that scan shows that in this particular area one focus is there, so he found that it is affected on this part. But something that we have to understand from the evolutions of the brain. So when we are evolving from the brain, so first brain is evolving as the right brain evolutions first, and then the left brain evolution has been started. So based on the evolutions of the brain, the right brain evolution gives rise to a left-sidedness of the body. So left-sided, what sir has told us that the left-sided is a sora, that means the need, the basic. Okay. And that is on the basis of miasm also sir has given idea that the left-sided represent the sora because left-sided gives rise to a sensitivity, left-sided gives rise to a senses and senses gives rise to a survival mechanism. So first evolutions of the brain develop is the right brain development. And then when we learn something from the experience, then the connections of the right brain is going toward the left brain and it will store and it will analyze in the left brain. So that is what the second brain is called as a learning brain. It is a left brain. So that is what the adaptation. So sir says that when the sora has been compromised, the survival has been there and survival has to have adaptation. So that adaptation has to be overruled in the left brain and that left brain gives rise to a right-sided dominance. So most of the evolutionary personality in the olden age of the olden era, they are the left sided more affections rather than the right sided. But nowadays we are evolved to such an extent, the left brain is evolved so much so that most of the peoples are the right-handed. So many a time in also right-handedness also you can find that 96% are the right-handed and only 4% from the 100 peoples are left-handed because of the overdevelopment of the left brain. So this is what you have to understand on the basis of evolutions of the brain. And after that evolution, you have to understand that the which of the miasm is affected. Okay, if the sensitivity is affected, the left-sided is affections. If the adaptations is there based on that, then the right side is more affections. And on the basis of sir has made one hypothesis that our old master has given that this remedy is most acting on the right sided, this remedy is most acting on left sided. And when you go to the symptomatology of that particular remedy, then you find that the left sided remedies are more sensitive, more hysterical, and that is also based on the brain affections also. So same time you can have the correlation between this brain evolutions as well as the miasm as well as your materia medica understanding. So this is what sir is giving us idea, whereas Hammer gave the idea.
இவா ஒரு 5 நிமிஷமா முடிவு
Dr. Hammer has given an idea that the impact of the conflict which is fall on the particular aspect of the brain is based on his CT scan and MRI reports. But it is after the disease has been developed, you know, he has given that our body has made in the three germ layer, and according to germ layer and the control from the centers of the brain, so that according to that germ layer the body has decided to develop a significant program, but that significant program happened after the conflict has been, but after that conflict has been happened, he found that in MRI scan that this conflict impacted this layer, but the disease already diagnosed before that, you know what
No,
miasm giving this idea. Yes,
he
yes.
has given, I'm interrupting. He has also given a pattern that a
Okay.
child is born with a certain handedness,
Hmm.
and during adolescence, especially for those temporal cortex controlled organs,
Hmm.
the conflict falls for like for a right-handed woman, the conflict will fall on the left side, and for a right-handed man, the conflict will fall on the left side of the right side of the brain, and for the woman on the left side of the brain. So he has determined a certain side.
Hmm.
उसके बाद जो second conflict आता है, that falls on the other side of the brain, because see, if there is a fright conflict, for example, the person will defend with anger.
Hmm.
Okay, the person will not defend with fright, because वो fright वाला section close हो गया.
Hmm.
Will become more like the lady will become more like a male, and the male will become more like a female. तो फिर वहां से डिफेंस से आगे शुरू होता है आगे ये चीज. So my question here is, the first conflict that falls should have more importance than the subsequent conflict, because if अगर हम यहाँ पे handedness determine करें,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially
जो
like
आप जो
example,
आप जो बात कर रहे हैं ना, that is based on the constellations, that when there is a two conflict in one personality.
every, because sir has mentioned two at two places, even he has mentioned this type of handedness is prevalent for three brain layers: the cortex, the medulla, and the cerebellum, but
Hmm.
not for the brain. Even sir has mentioned over here कि यहाँ पे ये determine नहीं होता है. We just read it, get it out there. कि कुछ कुछ diseases में ये handedness determine नहीं होती है. अभी सर ने बोला है यहाँ पे कहीं पे. तो हैमर थ्योरी भी सिमिलर बोलती है.
Hmm.
अभी हमने पढ़ा है, आई एम नॉट एबल टू गेट इट राइट नाउ. तो व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड इज, अगर तो फुल ब्लोन मैज़म है तब तो हमारे पास साइड आ जाती है, अदरवाइज शुड वी गो फॉर दी हैंडेडनेस.
See, one thing what I learned and I understood that we are asking handedness for case taking purpose. See, we are asking handedness for the case taking purpose and finding out the conflict and the history from the patients. So as Hammer says about the this conflict fall on this conflict fall on this, it is one of the Hammer's understanding and his hypothesis based on that. But what we understood from this is we just understood handedness, and we asked the handedness if the conflict is associated with the particular things. What sir has showed a general aspect of that. If the person having a conflict with the mother, family, home, and children, so left sided is affected more, And if the conflict is associated with the partner outside business or the anything which is associated with the material things, then the conflict is body is affected on the right side. And this is what the general understanding of the hammers, and what sir has also used this in the case taking also. Many a time we found that we are asking in one directional process in the case taking, that a person is affected on the left sided, the disease on the left sided, and we are asking the history about the mother, children, and family and home, and we didn't get anything clue from this. And at that time, what sir asked that, do you clap? Then the patient clapped left-handedly, and sir found that it is exactly opposite of that. So that's why sir questions of handedness come here, and sir asked the questions according to that. So even though left-sided affection, sir asked the history about the partners or the spouse or the business or something happening, and on the basis of that, sir understood that this is what something our medicine is acting on this. So, sir, just ask the handedness for the purpose of case taking only. Sir, do not ask for the purpose of deciding the simillimum on the right handedness or the left handedness. One thing you have to keep in mind. Second thing, we are using our Materia Medica knowledge to apply into our practice. Many a time we are confused with the conflict theory, and we are confusing with our Materia Medica, because this is something what both are different. The conflict theory is for the case taking and understanding of the man, not for the prescribing of the remedies. Keep in mind. Okay. So our understanding is applications of the similia similibus curanter on the basis of the symptomatology what we get from the patient and apply on. But the scientific things what we have. So if we know that the lycopodium is right-sided, when you go to the rubric, the Ryko having a right to left affection also, when you apply the side affection left, you will find Lyco there also. Even in lactasis also, there is a left-sided affection, right-sided affection. So what sir has given understanding that, so lycopodium is sentimental, sensitive, it is in a soric state, so it is the left-sided. Then their evolution start towards the money and power and everything, we become right-sided. So his body also affecting on the right-sided, and his disease also developing on the right-sided. So this is a psychotic lycopodium. And again, when psychotic lycopodium goes into a syphilitic state, destruction has been going on. So again, it shifts toward the sensitivity, and it goes into exaggeration and destructions and everything. So it goes toward the left. So affection goes also on the left side. So it is what we have to understand, the evolutionary of our remedy. One thing, according to the history of the patient. So many a time you will get the 90 out of 100 lipo patients are the right-sided, but the 10 out of 100 are the left-sided lipo, and you will get the wonderful results. So this is something you have to keep in mind, that side will help you to understand one thing is the miasm, as because the evolution of the brain gives you a certain process. For more understanding, you again refer the miasm book, so that you will get the idea that what sir wanted to convey, because we are dealing with the psychic conflict only, not the physical body and the process and defense of the body. So when we are considering the defense of the body, then our understanding of the miasm has been improved, and then you have to correlate with the side, so you will get the idea. So most of time what sir has given idea, that is what the firm footing of something. Sir has taken the things from the hammer, but hammer has not given the treatment part. Hammer has given the conflict reduction. But as what Master Hahnemann is telling, that when the miasm has been evolving, patient will not come back from the higher version to lower version. We see that it is a healing symptom, but it is the in healing symptoms. What Hammer has written, everything in healing symptoms are the disease symptoms. It is not the healing symptom. He had show that it is the symptoms of the healing, but it is all the disease symptoms. So when you have a disease patient and you say that it is a healing symptom, how can the patient will understand you? First. So sir has said that Hammer has given a wonderful idea and insight about the what we called as the understanding of the man at a genetic level with the psychic correlations. That is the best part of the Hammer. But for therapeutic purpose or for a healing purpose, what Hammer has given, that the therapy, German new therapy, which will not give you the healing in every patient. He said that whenever there is a syndrome or a water conflict or something which we call as the healing, so healing happen in the water. At that time, do not disturb and do not allow the patient to go into panic state. But already patient is in a state of the panic and the pain and everything. How can patient cannot go into panic state? In spite of giving a right education, patient will not have the miasm will not have changed the reaction, because the genetics has been associated with our emotions, our intellect, our will and moral. So it cannot change according to your understanding. You need to have a intervention, something which we have a medicine which is a which we called as the stimulum, a genetic stimulum, and that will reverse the miasmatic process, so that what sir says that miasmatic reflection has been changed. So syphilis to psychosis, psychosis to sora, it is always happen. But what Hammer says that when there is a conflict happen, direct syphilis is happen in certain area, and then in replenishment there is a growth happen. This is what Hammer has mentioned. But somewhere the miasmatic theory is not matching with the Hammer's understanding. Okay, Hammer has given the idea for the what we call as understanding of man with the conflict theory, which gives us the idea that the man is suffer from this psychic trauma because of this environment and this epigenetic factor. So we need to take into consideration, and on the basis of how the person perceives, that has to be taken for the our therapeutic purpose. That is what I learned personally, and that is what I am sharing my experience with all of you. Okay. But what Sir has done is the firm footing of things, that evolution of the brain, and on the basis of evolutions of the brain, the Sir has given the miasm theory, and also Sir has given the side theory. But handedness we have taken as a case taking part, that we need to find out something from the patients if the patient is not giving a mental symptom. Hope you got basic understanding. So thank you for asking the questions, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So thank you all. We will continue our journey on Paraita from tomorrow, so we can understand the genetics of our Materia Medica, and then also we apply this knowledge into our practice. So thank you so much. Thank you all. So we conclude the day today. Thank you.